Ugh. Brother, ugh. What's that?
What's good, guys? It's Alissa. If you're new here, hello. I was definitely one of those people that watched SpongeBob faithfully after the 4th season and was still excited for episodes past the SpongeBob movie. I remember when Friend or Foe came out and even Pest of the West, and I was so excited for them that I even marked them on my calendar. And without telling the same story over and over, I think that we can all agree that the show had a bit of a dip in storytelling quality after the departure of the creator, Stephen Hillenburg. But that doesn't mean that the episodes were bad. They were just different than the original content that we were used to getting, in my opinion. A few more years would show that it actually did get kind of bad though, with little to no storylines and heavily relying on funny slapstick scenarios. But one thing that did stay consistent was the fact that SpongeBob never shied away from gross out humor. From the abrupt shots of the close-up butterfly, to the hyper-realistic close-up shot of the nasty patty that was served to the health inspector, and even the absolute nastiness of SpongeBob getting a splinter at work. Unlike the splinter though, the gross out humor is usually quick cuts to throw the viewer off and really take them by surprise. But in the episode that I'm going to talk about today, the entire episode centers around a nasty fungus that consumes SpongeBob and later on, the Krusty Krab. In this video, proceed with caution as we're going to get into the skin-crawling subject matter of the season 5 episode, Fungus Among Us. The episode starts with Gary waking up SpongeBob to feed him when he realizes his bowl is empty. Not wanting to eat the organic snail food that SpongeBob gives him, he decides to make his way over to a suspicious green blob on the ground to eat. SpongeBob scolds him, saying that he knows he's a bottom feeder, but he shouldn't eat random things off the ground.
I realize you're a bottom feeder, but have some manners!
SpongeBob is trying to clean up this green fungus when someone rings his doorbell. And of course, the surprise visitor is his best friend Patrick. After SpongeBob answers the door, Patrick is startled when the green fungus is seen on top of SpongeBob's head like a hat. If you noticed, right before SpongeBob answered the door, he scratched his head, transferring the fungus from the ground to the top of his head. Patrick gives the worst advice on the planet, which is no surprise to anyone, to keep scratching the fungus until it goes away. When SpongeBob started scratching, I immediately started scratching too because, ugh. However, scratching the fungus actually makes it spread even more. Now making its way down to SpongeBob's forehead, SpongeBob tries pimple cream and even shampoo, but nothing seems to work to get rid of this fungus. The constant mention of itching in this episode made me so uncomfortable, and it was kind of like when someone yawns and it makes you yawn too, or even when someone just says the word yawn and it makes you yawn and you're probably yawning right now. It's like if you mention something enough, something happens to you psychologically, so in this episode, you start experiencing what SpongeBob is experiencing too. He tries to go to work by covering up his fungus with his Krusty Krab hat. Although it is now out of sight, this doesn't stop the itching. It seems that the fungus is actually growing under his hat, and a piece of it leaks down onto his nose. When he flicks it onto the wall, it immediately begins to spread. You know what? This is the case for Gordon Ramsay.
Oh, fucking hell. So that's the pesto.
Things get significantly worse when SpongeBob tries to clean up the fungus from the wall, giving him fungus arm warmers that he tries to cover up with gloves. This is the kind of thing that freaks me out when I think about food service too much, like, oh, the horror stories, oh my god. Don't ask me how I know, but there might be poop in your Wendy's chili, allegedly. Squidward barges into the kitchen because I assume patties are not just flying through the window to the front. He catches SpongeBob manically scratching the fungus like a dog. But he only asks SpongeBob what's wrong because he looked puffy. And it's not until his nose protrudes out that Squidward becomes startled, as if this horrifying sight of SpongeBob wasn't enough. And like an irrational person, Squidward calls the SWAT team to collect SpongeBob. The SWAT team claims to be unqualified for the situation, so they end up calling the hazmat division, who treat SpongeBob like a rabid animal. Now, I'm not saying that Squidward deserved this, but the way he smiled as SpongeBob was being carried away, you could say he got a taste of his own medicine when that fungus landed on top of his head. Squidward, unaware of the fungus on his head, keeps scratching at it, transferring the fungus to a customer while giving him change. To me, this is a great analogy for how germs spread in real life. Later, we learn that the hazmat team brought SpongeBob home and quarantined his house, keeping him in a bubble.
Where's my snail, Gary?
We've taken care of your pet.
Patrick stops by, fascinated with the bubble that SpongeBob is trapped in, and makes several attempts to pop it for some reason. I mean, it's Patrick, so You know, y'all know how he is. And although SpongeBob was terrified that Patrick was gonna pop it, he agreed to play pirate wrestling with sharp hooks. And just to nitpick, I thought it was a weird scripting choice to have SpongeBob say, "Sure, let's begin," before they started pirate wrestling.
Want to play a game of pirate wrestling?
Sure, let's begin.
This, of course, destroys the quarantine bubble, but Patrick quickly comes up with a solution to put SpongeBob in a soapy bubble. And SpongeBob is an employee of the month 374 consecutive months in a row and counting for no reason. Now in his mobile bubble, he's ready to go back to work, so he heads to the Krusty Krab. You can support the channel by subscribing to my Patreon. Link in my description box down below. Okay, bye. Without SpongeBob, the Krusty Krab is struggling, leaving Mr. Krabs to hold down the Krabby Patty making fort. Because, of course, he doesn't want to lose out on money. When Mr. Krabs asks Squidward to help flip the patties, Squidward shakes his head no so hard that he flings fungus all over the food. And somehow Mr. Krabs doesn't notice this horror show? Also, when did the Krusty Krab get french fries? This really shows how much Squidward does not like his job, because he was not paying attention to himself or the food he was serving. He himself is covered in fungus, and so is the food. And you know what? The more I'm talking about it, the more it seems like a plot hole more than anything. I don't know if the customers thought it was Dr. Seuss Day and this was some kind of green eggs and ham special, but that food did not look right. Squidward's condition is getting significantly worse, and the spreading has now reached not only the customers, but the walls as well.
SpongeBob gave me the ick!
The ick is an actual infliction that fish can suffer from called 𝙎𝙤𝙪𝙗𝙪𝙣𝙎 multifilius. And it's actually a parasite and not a fungus, and my curiosity was definitely tested while searching this because the more I read up on it, I was giving myself the damn ick. Mr. Krabs comes out after hearing all the commotion going on in the front of the restaurant. We see that he's also covered from head to toe in the ick. A customer let him know that his eating establishment is completely inadequate, and that was putting it nicely. SpongeBob makes his way back to the Krusty Krab looking 10 times worse than he did at home.
Returning for duty, sir.
And this couldn't possibly be a worse time. This incites complete anarchy because Mr. Krabs was trying to get them to believe that they were crazy for thinking his establishment wasn't clean and disease-free. Granted, there's no proof of a disease going around, it's just a spreading of a fungus, but I mean, that's no better. Mr. Krabs pins this fungus on Squidward, and of course, Squidward pins this fungus on SpongeBob because, technically yes, SpongeBob did bring it to work first. They start to attack SpongeBob's bubble, making it begin to leak fungus. Gary is still starving and makes his way over to the Krusty Krab trying to find something to eat. These idiots successfully pop SpongeBob's bubble and it shoots fungus everywhere it could possibly land. Not sure what they were going to accomplish in doing this. Mr. Krabs begins to giggle, thinking that Squidward was tickling him, but we find out that it's actually Gary eating the fungus off of Mr. Krabs. SpongeBob wanted to be a stickler again and scolds Gary for eating the fungus off of him, but Mr. Krabs let him know that he's just doing his job as a bottom feeder, since SpongeBob wanted to be bougie and not let Gary eat the ick.
Me next!
Where are your manners? It's ladies first.
I believe the expression is starfish first.
And I couldn't help but think, this seems like something Mr. Krabs can capitalize off of. Oh, right. I don't see how this system was a solution, seeing as when Squidward handed off the money in the beginning, the ick was transferred to the customer. So when this customer handed money to Mr. Krabs would be re-icked. And Mr. Krabs was dead wrong for making SpongeBob have to pay $5 to be de-icked by his own snail. But in the end, the Krusty Krab and its occupants are now free of the fungus among them.
Now back to work!
I remember this episode being way longer than it actually is, but it's not uncommon for SpongeBob episodes to be split into two 11-minute segments. However, this episode was actually accompanied by two shorter episodes, Rise and Shine and Waiting, similar to the Reef Blower episode. I also remember this was around the time that SpongeBob and Patrick started to act more childlike than intended.
SpongeBob is an adult character that acts like a child, and he has a child's perspective, and he's well-meaning, but this often causes him trouble.
SpongeBob to me was more childlike, but definitely more mature than Patrick, and Patrick is just Patrick. His name is now synonymous with the word dumb. SpongeBob to me went from a childlike innocence who stuck to his adolescent values to a child crying about his broken toy. Literally. Season 5 to me had some really good episodes, and unfortunately, this just wasn't one of them. This episode only stuck with me because of the disgusting horror of that fungus. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Probably not. But if you would like to keep up with me outside of YouTube, you can follow me on Twitter or Instagram. I'm mostly on Twitter. All that information along with any music that I use in my videos is always in the description box down below. But if you made it to the end of this video, make sure you give this video a big thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to my channel and make sure you hit the notification bell to stay up to date with posts and uploads from me. But for now, I hope you guys have a great rest of your week and I hope to see you guys in my next video. Peace.